All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we have everybody here, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:30. All right, roll call. At-large Cummins. She's not going to be here. Ward 1 Welker.
Yes, here.
Sorry, at-large Washington.
Here.
Ward 2 Helm.
Here.
Ward 3 Johnston.
Here.
All right, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I would like to just make a suggestion for consideration before approving the agenda, and that would be to remove line item number 11 under the consent agenda per my prior communications to you. Did you all see my communications to you about number 11 on the consent agenda?
I did.
I did.
It's not a lot, what?
Not allowed to have.
Pardon?
What?
Did you send this Friday?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I just saw it today.
Yeah, pretty sure I did.
Okay. All right.
Any questions about that? Okay. Yeah. Does anybody like to make a motion with that amendment to the agenda?
I will make that motion as you stated.
I will second it.
Okay.
Poston,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Welker,
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
All right. Next item is on the agenda is communications. We had one scheduled communication that's been moved down to city business. You know what? I didn't read the numbers on the consent agenda. Do you want me to read the list? I didn't read the list.
We'll do that now.
Now?
Yep.
Okay. So moving on to the, sorry, you're right. I did the agenda, consent agenda. Is there anybody else though from the public that would like to comment or address the council before we move on to consent agenda?
I'm Kevin Crock with Advanced Construction. And number 11 was going to be removed tonight because they didn't have a proper permit. In the past, we did file a permit for the HUD projects, and the permit fee was returned to us. They told us on for future projects we wouldn't need that because it was being inspected by Simmer and Corey. And I do have pictures of the foundation repair work that was in question. It was an 8-inch foundation footing that was put in by 16 inches wide, and then a 42-inch concrete block foundation put underneath treated wood and new treated wood. The original foundation under that part of the house was a original 6-inch board and then a piece of timber, and then it had one 8-inch limestone block was under that portion of the foundation. So when HUD inspected it, they wanted 18 feet along the west side and 10.5 feet along the north side replaced. So we jacked up the house, the waste did, and went ahead and replaced the foundation per HUD's recommendations. And on every step of the way, we had the inspector, Al Hendrickson, with HUD and Senator and Corey. He drove over here, and after we got it dug out, he drove over and inspected it. When we poured the footings, he inspected it. When we put the foundation in, and Dane Esbeck is the one that helped the boys put the block foundation in, he inspected it, and he inspected it after it was done. He was here 5 times for that foundation project. So So I guess that's why a permit was not applied for that, so. But I do have pictures to support everything. And Al Hendrickson with Simmering Quarry, like I said, was the one that's inspected it along the way.
Well, I guess that would be up to, I guess that's under Terry's authority, but I would, from my perspective, I guess we still have a city ordinance that mandates the permits and the city inspectors. I mean, that's, I don't know that HUD overrules.
No, HUD doesn't overrule. Ken has the permit all filled out there, but he was told that he didn't need to get a permit.
Who told you that?
See,
After we had after we applied for the last one, and the permits were returned along
So-
with the.
I think what you were told
fees.
is you have to fill out the permit application, but a fee would not be charged, which is why we reimbursed you for the fee you had already paid. But you would still submit the application to Terry for review. We just wouldn't charge you
Yeah.
because it's under the grant.
The fee, waiving the fee was part of the city participation for the block grant.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I don't know whether it was over inspection, but we did have it inspected, every stage of the way too.
But I think from a record keeping standpoint, from the city's perspective, Terry still needs to inspect it. Or do you disagree?
If they want to give me a stamped card, inspection card saying that it's passed, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
But since he's having it inspected by an engineer, but otherwise, yeah, I can swing out and take a look at it anytime.
Yeah, or you can take a look.
Yeah.
I'm just from a record keeping standpoint.
Yeah.
That's something.
But I just wanted to make sure, that's the reason we didn't get a applicant or didn't turn in a permit before this last time. So.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken. All right, so moving on then to consent. These are routine items that will be enacted by one motion without separate discussion unless a council member requests separate consideration. So approval of the council meeting minutes from July 15th of 2024, approval of the airport minutes from June 12th of 2024, approval of the airport minutes from July 10th of 2024, approval of the Tipton Masonic Cemetery Board minutes, July 22nd, 2024, approval of the library minutes, June 17th, 2024, approval of the library director's report, June 2024, approval of the 4th annual Tiger Prowl 5K, August 23rd, 2024, approval of change order number 1, airport terminal rehab for Lynch Plumbing at $12,000. Approval of pay application number 2, the pool dehumidification project to Garland Construction for $213,843.29. And approval of the Animal Housing Services contract with Muscatine Humane Society. Approval of the pay request for the Housing Rehabilitation Program for the Billick Project at 306 Walnut Street to Advantis LLC for $20,875. Approval of pay application number 2 is the North Plum Street project to All American Concrete for $136,709.65. Approval of the Tipton Revitalization Incentive Program reimbursement request to Dean Chalice for 300 East 7th Street of $5,134.73. Approval of the sale of the 2013 Police Ford Explorer by sealed bid. Approval of the liquor license renewal for the Red Pin. Approval of the resignation of Jillian Poshton from the Library Board and appointment of Michaela Bechtold to the Library Board. Approval of the last opening day for the James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center outdoor pool. Approval of the painting of the outdoor pool at the James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center of $6,573. And approval of the claims register, which includes claims paid under the current purchase policy. Questions about any of those items or anything that needs to be pulled out for further discussion?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Johnston, seconded by Walker.
Helm,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Ashton.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to city business. And we have 3 items under city business to address today. The first is the discussion and possible action concerning the one-way traffic on Walnut Street and West 6th Street. Matt Fontaine, who's a resident who lives on Walnut Street, would like to address the council. You just, Matt, state your name and your address for the
Thank you.
council record.
Matt Fontaine, 509 Walnut Street.
I've lived in that house since 2006, and I'd like to address the council considering the traffic problems we have on that street. I want to start by saying I understand that people can make mistakes, but the problem that I'm here to talk to you about is very intentional. We know, my wife and I know, whenever I say we, I'm talking about my wife and I, we know that people are aware of this one way and they don't really care. They're people who should know and do know better. We've addressed people directly. It's been met with, oh yeah, we were just, stopping by the school for a few minutes and going to leave, that type of thing. Okay, well, it doesn't matter if we're not gonna stay long. I've reached out to my council people in the past, past mayors, I've reached out to the police department. I've been met with little to no response at all. It's been happening for many years now, and it seems to be getting worse. A few weeks ago, I reached out to the mayor, and she invited me to come in and address the entire council. And I appreciate that. That's the best response I've gotten also in the entire time I lived there. So, we have 11 signs that state that that's a one-way street. And that's a one-way that goes halfway around one block. There are cars parked on the left-hand side. There's no parking on the right. The indications are very clear. This is not a two-way street. Those of us who are the most inconvenienced, if you will, if it's even that much of an inconvenience, are the people who live there. And I use Glenn and Ellen Fear as an example. He just turned 90. Their driveway is about 100 feet. They're on 6th and Mulberry there. They could easily just go straight, turn into their driveway. They go around the block every single time. And in fact, I know many years ago, Glenn wrote a letter to the editor of the newspaper about the same thing. We don't have many young children left in the neighborhood. Ours are all almost grown and gone. But we do have a new resident on the corner, on the yellow house. It's a 6th Street address. I don't remember what it is right off the top of my head. They've got a 1st grade age boy. He's a lot of fun. He runs around and he plays and pretends and so we made them aware right away. People do not follow this. We had to teach our own children as they grew and learned to drive. Our carport is on Walnut. You have to back out, go up the hill, take a left, and head west on 6th. The problem with that is when people are violating the one-way, if you are driving down the center of the street going the right direction, you are in the blind spot of the passenger side A-pillar of the car coming down the street. And I've had to dodge head-on collisions many times, countless. I couldn't tell you how many. And so that was, as a parent trying to teach my children how to drive, that's a real fear. It's a real concern. Lately, school buses during pickup and drop-off times, instead of all of them pulling up into the circle drive, they will have a few buses hang back and block Walnut Street. They'll park at an angle so that no traffic can get through at all. So the bus drivers are handling the issue during those times, those peak times. And, I feel that a bus driver has enough responsibilities as it is to not have to control traffic as well. Another thing that I've heard is that, my GPS sent me down this way. If we see someone who has an out-of-town license plate, they come the wrong way, they park at the school. If we're outside, we'll just mention to them, hey, this is a one-way, please, pay attention, please be aware of this. Oh, my GPS sent me the wrong way. So I plugged it in, and the GPS will absolutely send you down the wrong way of the one. Now, there are ways to get that fixed. The GPS.gov has a devices and maps page where you can submit and say, this is a one-way, this needs to be corrected, and they will do it. I have the link in my notes here. I can happily send that to anyone who's interested in that. So these are the main concerns that I have. Now, in the past, I mentioned that we get little or no response. One super egregious one, we saw a school vehicle go the wrong way, and it had the Tipton school placard on the SUV, and one of the police officers was coming up the hill. They passed each other, and everybody just kept on going. So I mentioned that to one of my police officer friends, who mentioned that I should contact Lisa before on that. I believe she was the sergeant at the time. I did not receive a response. That was on December 4th of 2015, back in my notes. Another time we saw a police officer drive the wrong way, just on a regular, they're not on a call, there's nothing going on. I messaged the police department. The response I received, unsigned. Hi, Matt, I will talk with the officer, but in his defense, he has been on duty for 6 weeks and is still learning all the streets. I will remind him that it is a one-way. That was on 7/12/2016. I feel that that's sort of a non-committal response, when I would certainly believe that a police officer on duty would have completed driver's ed and know how to read that many street signs. Now, things at the school have changed. The staff park on the Plum Street side. So it's very likely that there is no one watching before and after school what's going on out front, other than maybe whoever is on bus duty. So I feel that there are even less people paying attention now than there have been in the past. So knowing that I was put on the agenda to be here this evening, we turned on our security cameras. We usually have these off during the day because, we don't need to have one. In the month of July, our security cameras caught 62 vehicles going the wrong way. 62. There were 4 near head-on collisions. This is the slowest traffic time of the year for our neighborhood. There's nothing happening at the school. This does not include the cars that come east on 6th, circle the drive, and go back out the same direction, or the cars that turn south out of the school parking lot, south driveway. Our camera doesn't pick those up. That happens a lot too. In that entire month, we picked up a police car 4 times. Now, this is not for lack of trying to get this addressed. So it really makes me question the motivation to enforce this. I've been from those tickets. Maybe that has something to do with it. It is a high school. The notion would be we're talking about older kids. However, we have crosstown buses. There's little kids that get on and off there every single day during the school year. Every single day. The fact that more people aren't caught doing this, it can't be a statistical improbability. I mean, it almost seems like it is just not something that needs to be addressed. So that makes me wonder, why does it have to be a one-way anyway? Is it for school safety? Because if it is, I think we want to have people keeping an eye on that during times when there's high traffic. If it's not, maybe we can just take the signs out and let people go whichever direction they want. It'd make my life easier. But, I think that's probably not what we want. I think it's a one-way on purpose. School calendar is available for everybody to see. We know when the events are. We know when the high traffic times are. There are times where we will see upwards of 5 to 10 vehicles a night go the wrong way while everybody's trying to file out of that narrow street. We sit there, we watch it, we know it's gonna happen. There's seemingly nothing we can do about it. So I think, I wouldn't expect a car to be there all the time. That's not realistic, but when there are times where we know that the high traffic is gonna be happening, maybe we park somebody down there. In conclusion, I'd like to thank Mayor Gerd and Councilwoman Van Scoy for their attention to this. It has really been the best response that we've gotten, and it means a lot to me. I don't feel that we're asking for anything special here. I think that people who are from around here who know, do it because they know they can. I also believe the word travels fast in a small town. And I think if a few tickets got issued, I think that would go a long way. People would start talking and be like, hey, you know what? They're watching the one way, so maybe you better go the way you're supposed to go. I think it would help greatly overall. I don't think it should take an accident, or a child being injured or even killed to get some attention on this problem. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Matt. I should have told you, Matt, in the beginning that I did share the emails that you sent to me and Amanda sent to me with the entire council, so they have seen those communications.
I appreciate
You
it.
and I.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Matt? I know Chief DeFore has some comments, I think, maybe for the council. No? Okay. I didn't know. Okay. Any questions then for Mr. Fontaine?
This is one, you're talking about that, your report for July about 62 vehicles. Is that 62 incidences or like 62 separate like vehicles,
These sometimes are the same vehicle, they are sometimes not. So separate incidents, multiple vehicles, there's not one person who's doing it all the time.
Sure.
So it's just where our camera caught. I thought it'd be good to come in here with some data, so we sat down and counted all of them.
Yeah, and I will just say, just based on personal experience, last month I had a meeting at the school, and when I was leaving the school, I was actually pulling out of the parking lot, looking to make sure nobody was coming up the hill, and started to pull out, not real thinking that somebody would be coming down the hill, and actually somebody was coming the wrong way down the hill, and I just about hit them in the front end.
I have something I want to say.
Yeah.
Lisa, is it possible, since we have a resource officer, to put them out there when school gets out?
No, part of their job is to be meeting with the students, be in the schools, and there's 3 different buildings.
I just say even an empty car would make a difference.
So I think I included several options that have been discussed. And I have been working on this for several years, and I think Abby has mentioned that she remembers me talking about and bringing up different things.
Okay.
There hasn't been input in the past.
Okay, so this then really is an opening discussion, I guess, for council moving forward to look at, maybe have a discussion based on the options that Chief included, and if there's,
We having that now?
if you want to, or we can circle back to it. I just wanted to make sure Matt got his time with the council.
While we're on it, number 1, make the street a 2-way street. That ain't gonna work. It's not wide enough. Make it a 1-way street. I've said doing that to a bunch of them.
Well, I think you
Certain-
could make it a 2-way street, right? You just couldn't have parking on the street.
But only certain times. We've asked multiple times, on even days, for snow,
Oh, yeah.
for trucks, and we were told that people won't understand that. So I don't think they're gonna understand only certain times.
Right.
Camera system, I can see that. I kinda like the idea of having a cop sit there. I mean, it's been a 1-way
Even an empty car.
since I started driving, almost 30 years ago. I don't understand how people are not taking it seriously. Like, they're doing, do not enter signs, both sides of the road. I mean, I'm not, put somebody there, start writing some tickets. Like you said, if I was in school and got a ticket, I'd be telling everybody. And I know I would take the rap I got when I got home, and I wouldn't want to get another one. So, I mean, I got a speeding ticket in high school, never got another one, didn't want to.
Can I add one thing to that? It's not students mainly.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are adults that know better,
Correct.
Should know that.
should know better. Is it,
And likely, I'm speculating, but likely some school employees, I would assume. That there are some that,
Can you guys hear me at all?
yes,
The few times that I've been there and seen that myself, at least twice it was school employees. And every time it was grown adults that were not students.
do we start with a memo? Send it out now? That's, I mean, you guys are teaching reading and writing and you can't read the street signs.
yeah, I mean, maybe that's a place to start, is to ask the school to remind the staff that that's a one-way.
I mean, we shouldn't have to put a video.
No.
Yeah, put a warning in the paper.
I think his suggestion about writing some tickets would make a difference. I think if if there was a statement that was gonna be made in the paper, whether we put it in or whether Stuart writes it in the article, if we say as of X date or immediately, however you wanna say it, people then are at least warned in that way that they're gonna be open to receiving an actual ticket, not a warning, but a ticket. And I have seen cases where situations can be corrected fairly fast when people hear about tickets being written. They don't want to be the next one.
I don't want to see anybody get a ticket, but if that's what it takes, I guess.
Yeah, when it's, being up to over 60, I'm afraid warnings alone probably aren't going to make a lot of difference. I mean, I guess, Lisa, I'd let you give an opinion on that too. It's more at the heart of what you do than what I do, but do you have any thoughts?
I don't like cutting cars apart, so, especially head on. Those are never fun and never good. You've been there, Matt, you know?
So based on discussion,
I think starting maybe with a warning and then tickets.
increasing enforcement is
Yeah.
what you are all thinking or
Give a warning in the
wanting.
paper,
or-
that way everybody
I
go.
mean, 62 is too much. That is an alarming number of wrong way driving in 1 month. Like, that's ridiculous.
So we start with increasing enforcement on that street, especially during high
I'd say especially during
school or high, when there's events or high traffic times is the word I'm looking for. And see if that improves the problem. I don't know that it's gonna fix it completely, but an improvement is better than nothing at this point, and then go from there.
Maybe we block it off.
Block it off to everybody but
Like
the,
one way. No, I'm being a little flippant, but maybe that's an idea. If you can't get down that way and get out that way, people will eventually figure it out.
yeah.
But those big concrete things they put in the middle of the road. Somewhere. I don't go down that road, so.
Yes and no, you really can't do that for emergency vehicles.
No, I understand that, but I'm just,
Yeah,
it's
no,
just,
in theory, yeah, yep,
if you want
I
to
get it,
use a sledgehammer instead of a feather.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. You're used to cars coming one way, you don't look at one way when you're crossing the street, you're looking the other way.
Yeah.
Especially kids. Don't want to see anybody get hit.
It's not exactly what I'm here for, but when I lived in Cedar Rapids, Rockwell Collins parking lot would dome through our street, 34th, so employees would race down that street at 40 or 50 miles an hour. to get ahead of the other cars. They had police cars sit there, and anybody who did it, hit them hard for like about 5 or 8 seconds with the lights and the siren. Cured it very fast.
Yeah.
Didn't have to issue a ticket. Scare the shit out of them.
It's okay.
Public warning.
Any other comments or anything, Chief, from you?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Sound good.
Thanks, Matt.
That would be around call volume with.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next item under city business is discussion concerning proposal to pursue historic preservation options for the City Hall Block Building. This is the building that's owned by Bob Bird. Jessica Bristow, who works with Historic Preservation Properties, is here to answer questions of the council. I think Terry is going to lead this discussion, or not. So if you recall, a few months ago, Bob was here at the council meeting regarding his building, and we gave the council, you all gave him 30 days to complete the shoring of his roof structure, and then there was a 60-day timeline or 60-day timeline deadline to get estimates to fix the actual roof structure. And the shoring has been complete, is my understanding, Terry, right?
Yes, yeah, Bob went ahead and he pulled a building permit, and he had the shoring up, I think, within 15 days. He went to town on it. It's well supported right now. It's temporary, but it's well supported. Something still needs to be done. I know he's been trying to get bids to get this roofing redone, roof replaced, I should say. And I don't know if you've gotten any yet, Bob. I don't think you have. So, and he had also talked to Jessica Bistro. She works with historical buildings at both a local level and a state level. And she feels it should be saved. It can be saved. So I would rather have her talk on that.
Well, in the thing that I got, where I got 30 days, it's not for lack of trying. Shive Hattery Engineering told me they wouldn't come here. Well, I called.
We're not worried about that now. I understand that. I mean, we want to listen to Jessica and then see if I get more time.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, within my 30 days. Was it an engineering company, 5 union roofing companies, from Sterling, Illinois to Des Moines, won't come here. 2 non-union companies.
Okay.
Let's
let- yeah.
listen to Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Bristow. I live in Iowa City, Iowa. And I have been talking to Bob, and I have reviewed his building. And I came into the picture basically because of the fact that if a building is eligible for a listing in the National Register of Historic Places, there's the potential for the owner to receive tax credits for a substantial rehabilitation of that property. A commercial property could get a total of 45% of all qualified costs returned to them after a project is done. The owner, of course, needs to get loans and other funding in order to move forward with the project because the tax credits are not reimbursed until everything is done. Tax credits can be a lengthy procedure. Typically, there is a part 1 where you prove that the building is eligible for the National Register and has enough integrity, all of the historic materials, spaces remaining. During part 2, you discuss the scope of the work that the project will entail and basically get approval from the state that it all meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And those are the rules that are followed for any of the rehab projects on National Register properties. And then the work is completed. Step 3 basically certifies all of the costs and usually involves an accountant. And then the tax credits are reimbursable, 25% coming from the state and 20% coming from the federal government. Following that, they usually do require that the property does resume becoming an income property at that time. You need to not have it sit vacant. It needs to, have tenants and have a use and all of that. I have worked basically for Bob for free at this moment, because one of the first steps that you can do with the state is to submit a preliminary evaluation of eligibility for the National Register. Basically, you provide them enough information that shows that the building has its integrity and that it's significant. They evaluate that and they come back and either agree or not. I'm sure they'll agree with this building, that it is eligible for the National Register. And then at that point, we could enter into a tax credit project with the state. We would have a phone call with Bob and I and the state. We'd talk about how that would proceed. He would have to have someone, it could be me, complete an intensive site inventory of the property. I've done a description. I have not reviewed the property in its entirety, and I have not done any of the historic research yet. There would be a substantial amount that would need to be done, because you would basically be showing that this building is significant as a social hall, part of the social history of the community. And so they want you to outline all of those things. And part of that, with the tax credit project, helps to determine what the state is going to really want to save and what things could be replaced or modified or whatever to put the building into use. So that first step would be this intensive site inventory form, and then we would move on with what happens with the building. Now, in my opinion, I read the structural report that you had done. It clearly shows that there's structural deficiencies, and some of them might have been originally planned. With that in mind, in my opinion, Bob is not ready to just go out and hire a roofer or get estimates from a roofer to do this project. There are two ways that it could potentially be done. It could be retrofitted or altered in order to fix those deficiencies from the original structure, or it could be entirely replaced. I would assume the entire replacement is going to be much more expensive. I would think that Bob's next step is actually to hire a structural and an architectural engineering firm in order to really evaluate how many of those structural materials need to be replaced and what could be done to reinforce the structure or design a new structure for it. I would not just hire a roofer in order to do either of those things. And so I think that that would be the next step. Tax credits do want you to generally be in their system before you start the work, but when there are emergency things like that, that's the kind of thing that we can discuss with the state. Tax credits also tend to cover basically any work that you can get done within a 3-year period. Now, this could happen without the city being involved in any way. We could just work with the state. The only thing that I see is that Bob, as a property owner, is going to need loans for his project. I mean, there's the 45% that he's going to get back, but he's going to have to shell that out at some point in too. And so I don't know what the community might want to be involved with. I don't know. I don't know if either Bob or the community might have any idea of how they could use this building, especially the hall spaces on the upper floors. I mean, could they be rented out? Could it be a wedding venue? Could it be meeting halls? Could it be a roller skating rink again? I don't know. But some of that could be an interaction between both of you or not. We could move forward with one building. We could also look at whether or not you had a downtown district anymore. At one point in time, somebody thought you might have a potential district. If you did, then that would mean that any properties that are contributing to that district could also do a tax credit. and they'd all be eligible. That would be a community thing, of course. But basically, that's what I'm here for, is to help Bob through a potential tax credit project. Sometimes with the Iowa Economic Development Authority, there is grants and things available depending on what that use might be. I don't know of any right now, but if we are talking about something that might extend multiple years, there's always new grants and funding that opens up at the state level, and so that's always a possibility as well. But the building is stable at the moment. I think that we need to have professionals assess that more specifically than the first structural report that was done.
Do you have an idea on a timeline? Like if you know, how long does it take the application period, or what is the application period for
I don't.
getting it registered?
Right now, I've only recently, because I did a lot more work than I had intended. I intended to just throw a few photos together with a brief description, and I just couldn't do that. I needed to make sure that they really understood what was still there with this building. So I only recently submitted it for the preliminary evaluation. The state has 30 days in order to come back and either agree or not. And then at that time, we could have this phone call with them. It's kind of what we consider in the 3-part process of tax credits, it's 1.5. So it's not one of the 3, but it's at the end of 1. And so then, I mean, writing up the site inventory form and doing that investigation, I mean, that could take multiple months. You're not gonna wanna work on a roof during the winter anyway.
Sure.
So I think that no matter what, the roof project is the next spring at the earliest, regardless. And I think that, you know, we could get to that point. A lot of it will depend on the state and their timing.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can be very slow.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, so Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the ask of the council, I think, is to extend that timeline for Bob. The roof is stable. It's been shored as it's supposed to, so the safety risk is not there that was there before. And so to extend the timeline, to give Jessica or Bob the time to work together to see if we can get this registered, and sometimes, you know, financial assistance for Bob to actually get it fixed. Now, I don't know if, Terry, do you have a timeline in mind that you want the council to give? I mean, Jessica just said this could take months, so.
I think in 90 days, maybe have an answer back.
I'm sorry, what?
Were you thinking maybe 90 days, you might have an answer back?
30 days, they should let us know if they agree that it would potentially be eligible. And then that's where we would, I mean, we could start researching it before that, but that's where we would really work on getting that site inventory form fleshed out, more about the history of the building. And I don't know how long that'll take right now. It kind of depends on when that moment hits. And
But in 30 days, we'd have an answer, which direction we need to go, though, probably within 30 days.
yeah, we'll have 30 days before they'll come back to us, for sure.
Jessica, when, if it would be, let's say after the 30 days, they say, yeah, it's a historical building, blah, blah, blah. When would the property owner be able to apply for tax credits?
I think right away, in my experience, because already when I submitted, they offered the fact that once they respond to the preliminary evaluation, we could set up that 1.5 phone call. So I think we could start moving forward right away. It would just take some time.
So if the city gave Bob until October 1st to have this approval from the state, from the historical department, to be able to get tax credits?
I think it's realistic that they will respond. There's a chance they might ask for additional information, but I tried to make sure that they wouldn't have to. That's why I spent extra time.
This is almost 2 months from now, so
Yeah,
that would give him plenty of time.
So I think the only other thing we would do is go ahead and have that 1.5 phone call. So I think that that's a realistic timeline. You said October 1st.
Yeah, and that would be deadline number 1.
Yeah.
That would be the direction we need to go from there.
Yeah, and then after that, we probably need, council would have to meet again and say, okay, when does it need to be done? I mean,
Or at least
I
what's
guess
the next step for,
I'm not a structural engineer, but I feel confident that this roof is supported now, just being up there.
He did that in a timely manner too.
Yeah. He didn't take his time, he got it done. But I think we need a timeline for being able to apply for tax credits. And then we need an end done date here. So, I mean, if it doesn't meet the October deadline, the October 1st deadline, if we decide to give him that, then he ain't gonna meet any other deadline, so we need to do something different then.
so are you suggesting that we extend it to October 1st so we know one way or the other? And then readdress the deadlines
That's
at that
what I'm
point?
thinking.
Okay.
I don't know. Much your guys' opinion too, but I don't think we need to hammer it
No.
right away. Let's get our ducks in a row. Have Bob get his ducks, or Bob and Jessica get their ducks in a row.
I'm okay with that.
I've got a sort of a practical question, Bob. Where's the break your back point? Let's just say you haven't been able to get a quote on a roof yet, right?
No.
Although you've been a roofer for all your life, I imagine. What's that roof gonna cost to fix or replace?
I was hoping I could skinny by like $119.
On your end or the total? Does that sound reasonable?
Tear out all the wood and use it, but I don't know what steel trusses cost anymore. It's gone up quite a bit in 20 years.
So if you get 45% of that back, are you okay with that number?
Well, I don't know. I have to get somebody that'll, I need a number to work with any way you look at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I can apply for that without getting.
You have to get a response back first, right?
Where I worked before, the big union roofing companies, they had their own architect on staff. You could talk to them and you could work with the engineers. That's what I'm trying to do, but they don't want it.
Yeah.
Sterling Commercial come close. They're a Chicago union.
Yeah.
And they're out of Sterling and they're starting in Bettendorf.
The reason for my question is.
None of those people want anything to do with this town. It's kind of funny.
It's probably Terry.
Yeah. But I think what we're trying to get at here is if you had an October 1st deadline
October?
for the grant.
I think everybody knows that those timelines are not exactly.
But for the grant.
Just for the grant.
Oh, well, you have to start getting estimates before you apply for grants.
No, but that's to make sure you can get on the
Make
historic.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jason.
Make sure you can get on that, step one.
Yeah.
Step one to make sure you can get on the historic site. That deadline is
But I
October.
think they're on base with that. I worked with the Iowa, did you know the Iowa DOT has a historical department? I worked with I believe his name's Kevin Bacon. I was contacting him before Jessica. They are interested in this place. It has 5 historical parameters. Louisiana Purchase, Iowa Territory, State of Iowa, Cedar County, and Tipton. Everybody's interested.
So it sounds like me, October 1st, we'll go ahead and assure you that you can get it on
These
historical, so
deadlines,
you'd be able to apply.
Look at the theater.
Okay, Bob.
We're not talking about finishing the project.
Circle back to you.
14 years.
Circle back to you.
So October
30 days.
1st is enough time to give you for you and Jessica to figure out if you can even be able to apply for grants.
Jessica seems to think that's an acceptable timeline. So that will at least give the council a yes or no on whether or not you can move forward with the grants or you have to move forward otherwise.
Right? That's not plenty of time.
Trying to.
I'm asking Jessica too.
It is.
I don't really know.
Is that enough
Yeah.
time, Jessica?
It's all on me, not on Bob. So, yeah, I think that's doable. And once we have that conversation, that phone conversation with the state, we should have a better idea overall of the kinds of deadlines that we're looking at. These projects can be big and complicated because historic buildings have a lot of unknowns in them. And so those things do change, but we will have more information about that. And we'll have the ability to check back in and provide updates as well.
So I think we, just because we had a motion previously and we're beyond that timeline,
I make a
we need
motion,
another.
make a motion for October 1st
to
for your information.
Okay, so we have a motion by Helm
I'll
to,
second that, I'm reasonable.
okay. So we have a motion by Helm, seconded by Walker, to give Bob until October 1st for his historical applicability. Is that the right word? All right, eligibility, there you go, there you go. All right,
Welker,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Hodgson,
Yes.
Helm.
Yes.
thank you, Jessica, for being here.
Thanks, Jessica.
Okay, so moving on to the third item under city business is discussion and possible action concerning indoor painting of the Kennedy Family Aquatic Center in the amount of $48,398.
Everybody. I'm back. Quarter coatings there, as you guys already know, they're doing the sponge blasting in the aquatic center too. So, we had we had like 2 or 3 other ones. They just didn't put a bid in. The previous person, Level Painting, reached out to them. His father retired and he tried to find somebody else, try to get bids for that. And so this is the one we got. About 3 years ago, and Level One wanted to do it again. It was a little over $30,000 just for paint. So, and this is what they're proposing. They actually went through Sherwin-Williams as well, and they recommended this kind as well for microboxing. So,
Adam, is this painting just for the walls?
yes.
Or
this
is this?
This is just for the walls.
Okay, so the steel,
Steel is that's going to be a separate.
That'll be a separate one, okay.
And that is yet to be
Yes.
investigated.
Yeah.
We can't stop now.
So what is
A
the,
motion to approve.
so what's the time, hang on a minute. What's the timeline for painting? I mean, at this point, construction's obviously behind.
I don't know.
Okay.
Garland Construction's in my office every morning.
Okay.
The welders are there every single day. At least 2 of them, sometimes 3. Past, I think 3 weekends they've worked Saturday and Sunday. So they're being there every day and trying to do as much as they possibly can. So
How's the project coming along though?
slowly but surely, yeah, it's,
There is light?
Huh?
There's a light at the end of the tunnel?
yes, there is, yeah.
So I stopped there Friday, just to peek in and see how things were going. And obviously the guys were just doing their job. They really couldn't answer my questions, but I think the concern is, or we're just trying to identify a timeline, and the school is asking. And so we're trying to figure out, and I know I asked Terry earlier if Mike has been reaching out to him, for different things, and he hadn't heard any updates this week either as to what the timeline is. So, because there hasn't been anything, inspected or
No,
requested at this point.
I know that Garland, they're trying to talk to Kraus to get ductwork before doing stuff. They're trying to do everything they possibly can prior to the unit gives on the roof. And then they tried to start sponge blasting the walls last Monday, and it just got too dusty. So then they basically had to pack everything and leave. Between Garland, the welders, and corridor coatings for the blasting, they said you guys need to communicate with each other. Whenever I find anything, I'm calling Ryan from corridor, telling him, because he was hoping he'd be here today to start blasting, but he's still not.
They're going to sandblast with welders working in there?
They tried to. They put those big tarps in there. They put those in there to see, because the sponge the rep came to help them start it. You can wet down the walls and wet down the sponges when they start blasting to hopefully reduce the dust. But as soon as they got to the concrete, and then that lasted probably about an hour, and that was it. And it is very loud when they start blasting, even with their closed walls. They sealed everything up and all the doors and everything, and it was still very loud. They tried to do as best they could. They had 3 lifts in there to try to put
tarps and stuff like that, literally from here to that wall, that's how far they were blasting, trying to keep it contained, and it still was just blowing everywhere. A lot less though than when we had that one area sandblasted. It was a lot less dusty, but still dusty. So because that concrete, was trying to get it down to the concrete, so.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Huh?
Did you have something?
And I might have missed it when you were talking, Adam.
Yeah.
What's the warranty on this painting? I mean, it is gonna peel off again in 2 years, is it?
No, they said as long as, that's the thing too, I did send an email to, KPE, Brian and everybody about, they're requiring a certain timeline after the unit's running before, painting starts. You know, they have proper humidity, a certain humidity to start painting. Brian from Corridor said they'd like to start painting, we're actually gonna clean up everything after blasting. But granted, the unit's go on the roof, make sure it turns on before we start blasting. While we're blasting it, you have the unit off because it's gonna get stuff inside it. And then while they're cleaning, I'm guessing we turn the unit on, make sure it's stabilized and stuff, but that's gonna be more KPE's right up, not mine. I'm not going to say, anything after that, but then after, they paint, we have to wait at least 14 days before we put water back in the pool. So, whatever that day is, I mean, I don't know, but they said 2 weeks, and after that, it should probably, then it'll take probably 3 or 4 days to fill, and then balancing it, and then give the university back, T-sample back, and then we'll get over it. So it's just, when that stuff happens, I don't know how long class is gonna last. I'm not sure, I don't wanna say a time frame, because if I do, student's gonna write it on paper, and then I'm gonna get.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know, I wish I did, but I mean, but like, the guys are there every day, there's not, I'm granted, if they weren't there for 4 or 5 days straight, I think we'd have a definite gripe, but they were there every single day.
Okay.
The only other thing I got to say, I guess, to council is I haven't seen any special inspection reports. So all that welding that goes up on that roof to re-support those steel trusses for that humidifier unit, or whatever you want to call it, there's special inspections that are supposed to be done on the welding, and I would have thought that they'd be doing them and sending me reports, because if they're not doing them right, then they're going to do them all over again. But I haven't seen anything on that. Just let you know. Because once the project's done, then I will get a final special inspection report. It says everything's done to the minimum standards.
And Garling is supposed to arrange those?
Yes. It was right on their plan, if you remember.
Okay.
Adam, I'm listening, I'm looking at you, so the blasting, sandblasting, that has to happen before the unit goes on the roof, or it can be on, it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter, as long as the unit's not running.
It's just
As long as it's not running.
Yeah.
So sandblasting before it runs, then we need to run it for 14 days before
Well,
we can.
that's sort of like the leeway, because I was told a certain time frame, but then Ryan Cordo said it doesn't have to be, but I'm not going to. That's why I sent an email, I think it was last Monday, I sent it last Monday, to them and saying like, hey, Ryan wants to do this, I was told this, I want to make sure that that's more, the engineers say so, like, hey, we have to wait this amount of days before we start painting.
Yeah.
But all I was told is like, been told 2 different things. I've been told it's this time frame, but I also told by Sherman Williams rep, said, as long as the humidity is at this level percentage, you can start painting.
So there are some conditions of some kind
Yes.
that need to be met before the painting happens after it's all been going.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I think after the blasting's done, while they're cleaning, they can have the unit running. And if it gets stabilized by the time they're done cleaning and everything's okay, they can start painting. So,
And then after that's, whenever it's completed, then we have
14
some
days.
conditions that need to be met,
Yeah.
14 days,
Yeah.
fill the pool, and
Yeah.
so, okay. I know it's not looking for a timeline necessarily, but just trying to like think through my head, okay, just
Yeah.
based on whenever we get to that point.
yeah.
I have that idea of when the next point
I would love
is.
to know how long it's going to last. I mean, but we still got to keep up on the roof for all the top work, everything going. As soon as the welding's done, that the unit will be on the roof and the scalp will get out there and then blasting, and then it's just hopefully after that, then it'll start moving fast.
And do you have any indication when they're going to be done welding? I mean, I know that
I talked to Tom, like basically right after you talked to him, I was talking to those three guys there outside and they were hoping, basically, our goal is to get that unit up on the roof by the end of this week.
Okay.
That was their goal.
But we
I'm hoping-
want those special inspections done, right, before they put that up there?
I would think they'd want, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, because that's gonna have to be coordinated,
Yeah.
so they need to, Garling needs to get that
Yeah, there's
arranged.
a third party doing it.
Yeah, it's Terracon, I think, didn't he say it was Terracon? But regardless, we need to make sure that that gets done before they put that unit up there.
Tom wasn't there today, but the other two guys were, so when I see Tom will be there tomorrow, so I can talk to him, make sure that.
Okay.
Okay. Or something coordinated.
But, yeah, yeah.
Garland, whatever.
Yeah, well, Terry has been, or Mike has been emailing, Mike from Garling has been emailing Terry, but up just sort of weekly updates, but I don't think. Okay. So back to the motion. Did you motion it?
I did.
You did? Oh, did somebody second it?
Do him a second.
Okay, so motion by Welker, seconded by
Long time ago.
Johnston.
Y'all ignored me.
Johnston,
I heard you. Yes.
Ashton,
Thank you.
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Welker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, that concludes city business. So on to the reports. Any council members have any additional reports?
There's one more thing I forgot to mention up there. With the HUD program, those were the last two HUD houses that are on this program. Unfortunately, they've run out of money, HUD has, but my son and I did go to a meeting for community action in the Quad Cities. And community action used to kind of do their own thing where they had their own contractors go out and do all the work. Now they've sold all their equipment. Now all their guys are just inspectors. But they've got, and I don't know the exact number, but I thought it was like $3.3 million for Scott, Muscatine, and Cedar County. And when I went up and talked to the director there, I said, how many dollars are coming to Cedar County? And he said, none. Nobody's asked for any. So I think if it's a good program. Their main focus is on saving people on utility bills. So they're gonna do windows and doors and attic insulation, sidewall insulation. It's not glamorous work for a contractor, but the HUD work's been good work for my young guys. Because, it was a learning curve for them, so it's worked out well. But I just think that if there's something as the city and the community we can do to get some of that, the Beckler house was almost 170 years old. We've got a lot of those houses here. And, when it was sitting on 6 inches of foundation, I know it's got to work on foundation repair, that's not what they're after. But you can help keep a lot of people warm, I think.
Yeah, good to know.
So
Do you have contact information for that group
I do.
that you can send?
And they've got a lot more requirements as a contractor than what HUD did, as far as the different documentation they have to have and everything. So, and it was a meeting like for contractors, and kind of an education meeting and so forth. But there's a lot of money there. And Al Hendrickson with Skipper and Corey did tell me that as soon as they see more money coming through the channel, the Tipton's gonna be one of the first ones he notifies. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Ken. Reports from council. Anybody have anything from you? No? Melissa? No? Department heads? Steve, I know you got some.
Yeah, I just want to bring everybody up to speed on a couple of situations. They're kind of related. Summit out there that goes up the hill across from the golf course, top of South Street. You probably all noticed over the years, the shoulder there, water comes down off of Summit, comes down off the hill. Trying to keep rock on that shoulder is impossible. We've tried big rock, small rock, sticky rock, it won't stay there. And there's a big gully there right now. When Kluger was here to do the alley here, last spring, I asked him to take a look at that. I think we need to do something hard surface there, an asphalt shoulder to hold it. Concrete would work as well, but concrete on that hillside would be a real challenge to install that. Take too much time, there's too much traffic there, it'd be dangerous for one thing. Asphalt would do that fine. Klusner said they'd like to look at it. They have a milling machine that's 5 foot wide, and they could go 5 inches deep next to the current highway there. And mill that off and put 5 inches of asphalt in there for 200 feet. Now that would push that shoulder edge down to where it kind of starts to level off, and the water would, if water got down that far, it would level out into that grass, the next lot. It wouldn't, it's beyond where the gully is right now, if you know that gully. They gave us a bid of 22,000 to do that. I've contacted Pelling a couple of times, no response. It's not a big enough job to bring those guys in probably with their asphalt equipment. I was hoping to get them involved with us when they were here doing some Cedar County secondary roads work, but they didn't get back to me. So that's where we're sitting with that. I just wanted to, I'm not bringing this to the council tonight for approval. I'd like to get some kind of direction on, the other thing is Klusner might be here in a couple of weeks to finish up some alley work up there by you, George, and a couple other private jobs that he's doing here in town. They could probably work it in then, but I don't know when they're going to be here for sure. It could be before the next council meeting. I guess that's where I'm going with that. What do you want me to do?
I agree to bring it up, but this is the side of the street that we were talking about if we ever did a sidewalk. So is this something that's gonna have to be torn up? Is the side, plain devil's advocate, I agree something needs to be done, but if we dump all that water down, put the sidewalk down below, that sidewalk's gonna be nothing but sheet of ice in the winter. I'm trying to think.
Where would you anticipate the sidewalk?
We talked, have you been on something like?
No, I mean, I'm just picturing like the Montgomery Drive project, just how does that affect that, or does it? Because it's up farther.
This is beyond, this is above Montgomery Drive and wouldn't affect that at all.
Okay.
He's trying to get to the low spot.
Okay.
The other thing, that's an excellent point. Someone said, well, you're gonna put a 5 foot hard surface there, that might be a good place for people to walk.
That was my first thought too. I was gonna ask you if this was gonna be follow the grade of the ditch, or are they gonna build a grade up? Something people will be able to walk on?
It's gonna be right off the
Okay.
highway. And it's gonna be a gradual, 1 to 2% slope into the ditch. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people, mostly, I shouldn't say this, but mostly women, they like to walk on that. And there's no place to walk.
No.
They're on the road. People come in off that highway faster than they should. There would be a safety factor, I think, for people walking if they were on that shoulder.
Yes.
Anyway, that's where I'm at. That's where we're at with that. And give me some direction, and I can continue to try to get Pelling to give us some kind of number. I'm not sure they're interested at all. Not this year anyway.
Well, you can, it sounded like when we talked about it, that within the CIP, there was an ability to move some things around. I don't see a nod.
Within the street CIP?
Yeah, well, back and forth between I think there was 40,000 for the parking lot.
Right, the street CIP had some funding in there, your public works general fund. So the street CIP, I think it was 20 or 25,000 that we allocate annually for patching and crack filling.
That's already normal, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that funding that could be utilized for this. It would.
Was the 40 for the,
Or
yeah, was that an estimate or was that an actual quote?
I think that was a quote.
use of the quote number.
Yeah.
Well,
For
we,
Park Road and the parking area where they're doing all the construction. work.
well, we need to get something more specific to see if there's any of that 40 that would be available.
Make sure it's not more than 40.
Whenever I have financial issues, I just go to Melissa.
You know, we were
Been working
talking,
so far, guys.
we were talking a little bit about doing some sort of asking for some sort of a go-ahead based on certain conditions, but I don't think we know enough. Maybe if we know more and Kleesner's coming to town before the next meeting, maybe we could just do a short special meeting.
So you want more of a formal estimate? Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, I guess I'd like to know of that 40,000 that we put away for Park Road, if there's any of that that's gonna be available.
Yeah. We can talk about that. I guess.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay. Well, let's go that route. Let's just gather our information and finances, and if we need to have a special meeting, we'll have a special meeting.
I just want everybody to know what it's not like we're ignoring that problem, but it's got to the point where we can't keep doing the same thing again, continue to put rock in that, and the people that mow that, those people that live there, they're disgusted with me, I think, because we end up with rock in their yard constantly. So, okay, that was the first thing. That was the easy one. Now I'm going to talk to you about something else. That street, and I am so disgusted with this, and I'm going to say this, before I was employed here, sometime around 20 years ago, or 19 or 20 years ago, that street went in out there. And that street, Summit Drive, and the other street that goes down the hill there, those were concrete streets, 7 inches, like poured on dirt. No base under those streets. So you get any water under those streets, on those slopes, and you get cavities that work out. And last week, and I knew there was water getting away somewhere. Last year, the section of curb dropped. We go, okay, we got some big problems underneath this street. Where's the water coming in, and where's it going out, and what are we going to do about it? So a couple weeks ago, I think Chris and I, Brian, and I took Brian and Brennan out too, but Chris and I went out there first and looked at the situation. We said, well, we've got to pull this chunk of curb up because it dropped 6 inches. Kevin Anderson lives on the corner there. He says, hey, Steve, come down and look at this on our sidewalk that they put in. There's a hole about like this. There's a cavity about 5 feet deep under it. So that went under the street. We pulled some curb and gutter out on both sides, 3 different places, and we decided, well, let's go with flowable and see if we can't fill those cavities and save what we've got, fill those cavities with flowable, and see if we can't salvage everything. And then pour back the curb and gutter that we pulled out, of course, after we fill the cavities. They came out today with one truckload, for starters, 8 yards, poured it down up there by, across from Kevin Anderson's, who lives there now on the other corner, Jim Jorgensen, right?
Yeah.
Does he live on the corner there? I think he does. Well, that side, we poured a whole truckload down that side. It finally came out about halfway down the block, and which we in the seam. We couldn't get another truckload today. They're coming back. I think we're going to need 2 more truckloads That's 8 cubic yards of load to fill the cavities under the street. And then we'll pour the curving gutter back, of course. But that's why, I gotta say this, I'm proud of this fact that when the new street went in up there by the park, the crews put in, that's put in by good specs with good base, good drainage, everything's right up there. Past councils and past administration didn't see the value in that, apparently. But that's something that we pay for down the road if we don't do it right the first time. So we are fixing that out there. And I hope that's gonna be a complete fix, but we're gonna keep an eye on it to see if we lose any more dirt. The thing that got my attention a couple weeks ago when it was raining, I went up there to see where is this water going? And there was dirt and water coming out the cracks about halfway down the hill. So first time I noticed that, it was coming up and out the seams. So we're addressing that issue, but just wanted you to know that's what's going on up there. We're not rebuilding the whole area, but we are correcting that, and we're gonna salvage, I think, primarily everything, except for curb and gutter a couple places. Any questions on any of that? That's really all I've got, but I just wanted to know why we're working on new streets. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Other department heads? Lisa? Brad?
No.
John? No? Lisa? No? Okay. Okay.
But Stuart has I bet Stuart's got something to say.
He's probably got a.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry.
Gary, do you have anything else?
I just had a question. And wasn't in the past, there was a sidewalk program in town?
There is.
There is yet?
Mhm.
Do we go out and
Steve
how
runs it.
does that work?
Steve runs it.
Steve,
Steve?
sidewalk program?
Sidewalk
Do
program,
we have that yet?
we still have that.
Is it utilized?
We're still using it, yeah.
Or are people?
I don't know how much funding is left in it. It should be quite a bit yet, because we just started a year.
But we don't mark the sidewalks. It's volunteer, whoever the homeowner is.
We just pay for, the concrete. $500 for concrete on a single, on a corner lot of $750.
Okay.
After they do the work and submit an invoice back that they paid for it. And then we reimburse the homeowner, either $500 or $750.
But we don't go out and site them. It's all volunteer. If they want to replace their sidewalk themselves.
Exactly. We don't.
We don't have somebody out there.
We don't tell them they have to have their
When the
sidewalk
council
replaced.
passed that years ago, it was a way to encourage people. It wasn't, you could go around and cite everybody
Oh,
all
I
the
know.
way. And that wasn't probably a good political thing.
Yeah, no. And I was just wondering, haven't seen anybody replacing sidewalks here in the last couple of years. I didn't know if.
We have exhausted that fund every year,
Really? Okay.
every year.
Perfect.
And then some, I think, right?
Okay. Good. I just wanted to know if we still had it. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. If no one has anything else, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Which one of you got there first? So motion by Poston, seconded by Helm. How about
Mike
that?
and Jason did it together, and then I brought up the rear.
Poston,
Yes.
Helm,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Yes.
Johnston.
Yes.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.